Daddy, you gotta help me. Mom will kill me.
Well, take it easy, sweetheart.
Jaimee Foxworth was brought in the second episode to play Judy for the rest of that character's run, and she just fit the mold of this character really well.
A family. You gave me 3 kids. You took away my baby. If you had taken away my oldest child, we could have always come up with an excuse.
We would have been happy.
That she was in the backyard or she was with her friends. You took away my baby. And when I asked you, why did you take away the baby girl, you said nobody would notice.
Judy Winslow was a fan favorite on Family Matters, but what happened after was a tragedy that was truly heartbreaking. First, the character died slowly, with fewer scenes and lines, until she was suddenly written off without any explanation to Jaimee Foxworth, who played her.
I said, you know what? When we're walking down the street, nobody's gonna notice you because they're not gonna ask you. They're gonna ask me.
Later on, Foxworth was left out again during a Family Matters reunion photo shoot. All of this deeply affected her life, and things started going downhill fast. From depression to substance abuse, and even turning to the adult film industry just to survive.
Jaimee's mother felt that her character was being underserviced, and the producers took it as a slap in the face, and unfortunately, it put Jaimee in a very difficult position.
It really makes you wonder, how much worse could things get for Foxworth? Let's take a closer look. Family Matters started as a pretty chill spin-off about a middle-class family in Chicago, but it didn't take long for it to get wild.
We did an episode, I guess more as a demo to the network to say, look, here's Reggie, look, here's Harriet Winslow. So Reggie, Joe Marie, Perfect Strangers, what do you think? And then based on that, we sold an actual pilot.
The Winslows, with Dad Carl, Mom Harriet, and their 3 kids, seemed like the show's focus, until Steve Urkel, the nerdy neighbor, stole the show. Played by Jaleel White.
We're just trying to think of the character that the daughter would least like for her father to have set her up for a party.
Hi, Mr. Winslow.
Urkel quickly became the breakout star with his awkward charm and obsession with Laura. His catchphrase? Iconic. The show was supposed to be about family, but once Urkel showed up, it turned into his personal stage for all his crazy inventions and misadventures. The ratings shot up, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. As Urkel took over, other cast members started feeling some type of way, especially Reginald Johnson, aka Carl, and Jo Marie Payton, aka Harriet. The show was losing its balance, and the family dynamic was starting to feel a bit off. Still, Urkel was such a hit that Family Matters kept riding the wave, even though things behind the scenes were getting tense. But things really took a turn when Jo Marie Payton left after season 8. Her character was suddenly written off and replaced with a new actress, Judy Elder. Fans weren't having it. The recasting felt like a cheap trick, and no one really got why Harriet had to leave. And then there's the most bizarre mystery of all. Where the heck did Judy Winslow go? She was around in the early seasons, doing her thing as the youngest kid, but by season 4, she just vanished. No explanation, no goodbye. She was just gone. Fans were like, did I miss something? But nope, the show never addressed it. Theories started popping up, with some people thinking it had to do with Urkel's growing screen time, and the writers not knowing what to do with Judy anymore. Jaimee Foxworth, who played Judy, later said she was written out without any closure, which made it even weirder. Fans never got an answer, and to this day, the disappearance of Judy is one of TV's greatest unsolved mysteries.
Jaimee's mother felt that her character was being underserviced, and the producers took it as a slap in the face, and unfortunately, it put Jaimee in a very difficult position.
Despite all the behind-the-scenes drama, Urkel's popularity making things weird, the recasting of Harriet, and Judy's unexplained exit, Family Matters still holds a special place in 90s TV history. It gave us a wild mix of family feels, slapstick humor, and of course, Urkel's unforgettable antics. But let's be real, the whole Judy thing? It still messes with people's minds. Fans still joke about it, and that random disappearance will always be one of the show's most unforgettable moments.
Daddy, you gotta help me. Mama kill me.
Well, take it easy, sweetheart.
So, Jaimee Foxworth was barely out of kindergarten when she started her career. Modeling gigs came first at just 5 years old, and not long after she began appearing in national TV commercials. But her big break came when she was cast as Judy Winslow, the youngest daughter in the Winslow family on the sitcom Family Matters. Judy was a regular part of the show's early seasons. But everything shifted after Jaleel White joined the cast as Steve Urkel. The character became a breakout star, and suddenly, Urkel was the center of everything. As his role expanded, Jaimee's role shrank. Jaimee didn't walk away, she got dropped. Out of nowhere, producers just cut her loose like she didn't matter, didn't even give her a heads up.
A family. You gave me 3 kids. You took away my baby. If you had taken away my oldest child, we could have always come up with an excuse that she was
We would have
wrong,
been happy.
that she was in a bad car, or she was with her friends. You took away my baby. And when I asked you, why did you take away the baby girl, you said nobody would notice.
So, with producers making budget cuts and Judy's storyline being more or less ignored, Jaimee was cut from the show entirely after season 4. No exit storyline, no explanation. She just disappeared. From that point on, the Winslows acted like they only had 2 kids, Eddie and Laura.
I said, you know what? When we're walking down the street, nobody's going to notice you because they're not going to ask you. They're going to ask me, what happened to Judy?
Turns out some of the cast already knew before she did, which made it hit even harder. She felt completely blindsided and started doubting herself, thinking maybe she just wasn't good enough. That whole experience messed with her confidence big time, especially being so young and still figuring it all out. Jo Marie Payton, who played Harriet Winslow, was especially upset over how Jaimee was let go. According to her, the producers made the decision under the assumption that nobody would notice Judy was gone. After Family Matters, acting roles became scarce, so Jaimee turned her focus to music. Along with her sisters Tyron and Jania Perry, she formed an R&B girl group called SHE. They released their debut album Three's a Charm on July 1st, 1997 through Shaquille O'Neal's label TWISM, Interscope Records. Even with the whole rebrand going on, Jaimee was dealing with a lot behind closed doors. She ended up doing adult films under the name Crave, while also trying to fight off some heavy personal stuff. Depression, addiction, the works. There was talk that her trust fund, which was apparently stacked, had to be used to keep her family from going completely under. People even said a judge got involved, but later on, she set the record straight. They never actually filed for anything. Yeah, they were seriously struggling, barely staying afloat, but it didn't go as far as everyone claimed. That year turned out to be a big one for Jaimee. She had a baby with her longtime boyfriend, Michael Shaw, and popped back up on TV in Life After. The show took a deep dive into everything she'd been through, getting dropped from Family Matters, dealing with mental health stuff, struggling with weed, and trying to get her life back on track. It was her way of letting people in on what really went down and showing she was trying to bounce back.
Jaimee Foxworth was brought in the second episode to play Judy for the rest of that character's run, and she just fit the mold of this character really well.
Years later, just when things had started to quiet down, Entertainment Weekly brought the drama right back. They dropped this big, glossy Family Matters reunion cover. Everyone grinning, all hugs and throwbacks. But Foxworth was straight up left out. Again. No heads up, no invite, nothing. She found out with the rest of the world, which made it sting even more. She didn't even get a courtesy call. No email, no DM, nothing. The only reason she found out at all was because Sean Harrison, aka Waldo, hit her up just before the cover dropped. He let her know EW had reached out to the rest of them for a reunion thing and wanted to make sure she wasn't caught totally off guard. But still, it hit hard. She was caught off guard anyway. And, yeah, it hurt. To her, it felt like a straight-up diss from Entertainment Weekly. There was no real excuse that made sense. And if the whole adult film thing was their reason, It didn't add up. She definitely wasn't the first to go down that path, and she wouldn't be the last. She was talking about that messy chapter in her early 20s that we talked about. The one where acting gigs had completely dried up and she ended up doing adult films. She's not letting her past define her or erase her. Yeah, she did adult films, but honestly, the only people who'd be shocked by it are probably teenagers. It's not a big deal. She didn't hurt anyone else. She didn't commit any crimes. The only person she really hurt was herself. What really stung wasn't just being left out. It was the chance that got missed. For her, the reunion could have been a chance to spark a real conversation about family, forgiveness, and growing up, especially with the whole spotlight on them. Being included could have opened up a dialogue about how not everyone in a family follows the same path or makes the same choices. Now that she's a mom, Foxworth's priorities have totally shifted. Raising her son and building a future that's all her own is what matters most. Nothing to do with family matters anymore. She's done with being defined by her past and her role as Judy. For her, what really matters is how her son turns out. That's what she felt said the most about who she really was. Not a role, not a phase, but how he turned out. And honestly, that kind of comeback hits harder than any TV rerun ever could. She's over people judging her based on old stuff, and honestly, she's in a really good place right now. She's just focused on living her best life. She said she wasn't that girl from Family Matters anymore, and she definitely wasn't the messy headlines from her 20s. She was in a good space now, putting her energy where it actually mattered. All that chaos from before, that wasn't her story anymore. Okay, so I touched on Jo Marie leaving the show before. Let's talk about that.
When it was time to go, I had already put in 10.5 years I had done this character.
Jo Marie Payton had been holding it down as Harriet Winslow for years, but by the time that last season rolled around, she was over it. 8 seasons deep, and she was feeling done, tired, frustrated, and low-key fed up with where the show was heading. When Family Matters first kicked off, it was supposed to be about the whole Winslow crew, but somewhere along the way, it morphed into the Steve Urkel show. Everything started revolving around his antics, and the rest of the family slowly got pushed to the background. Jo Marie saw her role shrinking and felt like her character barely mattered anymore.
So when it was time for me to go, I did like my mother said, when it's time to go.
She wasn't trying to fake it. She knew she wanted more from her career and didn't want to just stick around while things kept sliding off track. So she dipped. It wasn't some dramatic exit, just a grown woman making a choice to peace out and chase something better for herself.
When you're a baker, you don't always want to bake cakes or cookies. You want to bake pies. You want to bake bread. I wanted to do something else.
Jo Marie wasn't going to stay boxed in. She had bigger plans beyond just playing Harriet Winslow every week. At one point, she even got offered a role in a movie about Mahalia Jackson, but she had to turn it down since she was still locked into Family Matters. She wasn't just sitting around hoping something would magically change either. Every year, she and her agent went to ABC trying to pitch the idea of her doing other gigs on the side, kind of like how Bob Saget juggled 2 shows at once. But no matter how many times she asked, the answer was always a no. So while others were branching out, she was stuck, watching opportunities slide by while being tied to a show that didn't even feel like hers anymore. By the time her contract wrapped after season 8, she had already made up her mind. She agreed to stick around for a few more episodes, but only for half of the final season. After that, she was done. The switch-up threw everybody off. The producers brought in Judy Elder to play Harriet, but the energy just wasn't the same. On set, it felt weird, like someone tried to swap out the heart of the family without anyone noticing.
Oh, I was telling Steve about how I was going steady with Georgia when I met you.
Oh, her.
Reginald Johnson, who played Carl, was clearly not feeling it, and Darius McCrary, who played Eddie, felt like his on-screen mom had just vanished. The whole thing was awkward, and no amount of pretending could make it feel normal.
It was hard for me to, after 9 years of doing something with one person, it's like getting a divorce and marrying somebody else, and it was weird.
Jo Marie had been mentally clocking out way before she actually left. She'd been over it for a while, fed up with how things were going both on set and in real life. She still loved acting. That part never changed, but she was itching to stretch her wings a little. The way she saw it, just because you're good at making one thing doesn't mean you don't want to try something else. She'd been baking the same cake for years, and she was craving something different. Pie, bread, whatever, just something new. So yeah, dipping out after all that time wasn't easy, but she didn't look back. She knew it was time to switch it up and start fresh. Reginald Vell Johnson had love for the show.
I don't have any kids of my own. And I had to get used to being a father.
You never would have known.
Never would have known.
Oh, I missed you so much today, Daddy.
Oh, I missed you too.
But being around all that kid energy 24/7, not always a blast. He thought Jaleel was talented and all, but working with him, and honestly, just working with kids in general, wasn't always smooth sailing.
Working with him was a challenge. There were some moments when he was a little difficult, but overall, I have nothing but good memories for him.
Most of the cast literally grew up on that set, and that meant there was constant noise, chaos, and teenage moods flying around. Reginald, on the other hand, just wanted some peace and quiet to focus. Dude would sometimes dip into his dressing room and shut the door just to get a breather before jumping into a scene. The energy was fun, sure, but it could definitely be a lot.
You better check that attitude at the door. He didn't have the etiquette that maybe I and some others.
One moment that really stuck with Reginald was when the kids, Jaleel included, got way too hyped playing basketball on set. It was loud, non-stop, and totally messing with his focus. He asked them to chill, but nobody was listening. So he straight up walked off, set to prove a point. After that, no more basketball. Problem solved. And Jo Marie Payton had her own drama with Jaleel too. Things got heated between them during a scene from that episode where he played both Urkel and some wannabe tough guy cousin. Let's just say the energy behind the scenes wasn't exactly sweet and friendly that day. Things really hit the fan one day when Jaleel got into it with Jo Marie. He was fired up over a scene she thought wouldn't even make it past the network, but he wanted to push it through anyway. Next thing she knew, he was yelling, kicking, full tantrum mode, throwing around words like melee. She didn't even know what that meant at first, but once she realized he was basically asking for a fight, she was like, oh, okay, we can really do this.
He didn't have the etiquette that maybe I and some others had. There was one time he actually wanted to physically fight me. I was going to go in and whip his behind. I was going to whip his behind.
She wasn't backing down, but luckily, Darius McCrary jumped in before it turned into something messier. Just another day behind the scenes that wasn't exactly all laughs and family hugs. So when Jaleel popped up on Andy Cohen's show, Andy asked him how it felt hearing that some of his old castmates thought he was kinda hard to deal with. Jaleel didn't dance around it. He basically said, look, they're older now, and he was raised not to go back and forth with grown folks like that. He admitted things between him and Jo Marie were complicated. Some days were cool, some days, not so much. He brushed it off like it really just depended on who caught who in what mood. And of course, he plugged his book because, yep, apparently there's more where that came from. Jaleel didn't shy away from owning up to being a bit of a handful back in the day. He was just 13 when he joined the show, and by the time it wrapped, he was 22. One thing he always had on set, a basketball. He'd be bouncing it around everywhere, and yeah, he admitted that the constant sound probably got on people's nerves. He laughed about it, basically saying if that's what earned him the difficult label, so be it.
Jo Marie did tell us during her interview that she didn't have the greatest relationship with Jaleel during that time.
Jo Marie, on the other hand, had her own take on things. She mentioned that Jaleel could say things that hit a little too hard sometimes. But by 2023, she'd mellowed out a lot and made it clear that even though they clashed at times, she still had love for him. After all, He was just a kid back then, and no matter how much older he got, he'd always be that kid to her. She forgave it all, speaking about Jaleel.
Wow, are you wearing a bra?
At first, Jaleel White was just that lovable, nerdy neighbor everyone knew, or at least they either loved him or couldn't stand him. But as the show went on and Jaleel grew up, things started getting a little awkward. By the later seasons, the directors were starting to freak out that Jaleel's more mature look didn't quite match Steve Urkel's goofy, childlike energy. To make things work, they had to go all in on the whole youthful thing. Jaleel had to keep rocking those ridiculous clothes, speak in that high-pitched voice, and basically act like a kid, even though he was clearly growing up. By the time he hit 20, his adult body didn't exactly fit the part anymore. Those tight jeans? Yeah, they started looking pretty out of place for a family show. The network execs were apparently not thrilled, calling it a bit too much for the audience. They insisted on baggier clothes, especially looser jeans. It was becoming a whole thing.
Jaleel White is shedding light on his time filming the beloved 90s sitcom Family Matters. The actor played the iconic role of Steve Urkel from 1989 to 1998 and revealed in his forthcoming memoir, Growing Up Urkel, that he was told to wear looser jeans to hide his bulge when he got older.
He also had a major struggle with that iconic Steve Urkel voice. By the time he hit college age, his real voice was way deeper, and keeping up with that high-pitched squeak was seriously messing with his throat. It got so bad, he even thought about quitting the show. But the pain didn't stop there. Those tight pants from the early seasons were a whole different nightmare. Jaleel joked about having to peel himself out of them like a banana because they were that snug.
Jaleel was around 13 years old when the series started and 22 when it ended, and he recalled peeling his character's tight-fitting jeans off him like a banana.
By season 8, he was honestly overplaying a teenager when he was, an actual adult. His body and voice just weren't having it anymore. But the network wasn't ready to let go of Family Matters, so they kept doing whatever they could to make Jaleel fit the role, even if it was getting a little weird.
I'm drunk on you, baby.
After Family Matters, Jaleel's life definitely took some unexpected turns. The whole lovable nerd thing didn't stick around forever. In fact, things got pretty messy for him. In 2012, his ex-girlfriend Bridget Hardy accused him of domestic abuse, which stirred up a whole lot of drama. According to her, their relationship fell apart after she found cheating texts on his phone. When she confronted him, things escalated fast. Hardy claimed he got physical, hitting her and even shoving her into a toilet. She said she ended up fleeing the house with their daughter, but when she came back, everything had changed. Locks were changed, and her stuff was packed away in storage. The situation quickly went from bad to worse. When Bridget Hardy aired her side of the story, Jaleel White wasn't having it. He flat out denied everything, saying her accusations were just a way to mess with him and get leverage in their custody battle. He claimed it was all an attempt to bring him down, especially since he was doing well at the time. What stung the most, though, was that it all had to do with his daughter's mom, someone he never thought would turn on him like that. In the same year, Jaleel White was back in the spotlight, this time on Dancing with the Stars. He joined to give his career a boost, pairing up with pro dancer Kim Johnson. But things got messy during rehearsals when he accidentally stepped on her foot. Instead of apologizing, White reportedly flipped out. He snapped at Johnson, calling her names and accusing her of overreacting. It didn't stop there. White went off on producers and even clashed with fellow dancer Mark Ballas, who tried to calm him down. White even made a jab at Ballas, comparing him to an annoying TV neighbor. Talk about ironic, considering his own fame as Urkel. The drama got so bad that producers had to send him home to cool off,